Tecnologia conecta pessoas e transforma vidas. Crop Life Brasil.
Hello and welcome to the Warm-Up Global Agribusiness Forum, a movement seeking sustainable solutions for global agribusiness. We understand that food and energy security are paramount for world peace, and that this will not be possible without the efficient care of environment. The goal of the warm-ups series is to heat up to dialogue on topics such as food security, climate change, and sustainability in preparation for the big meeting in July. The next edition of the Global Agribusiness Forum is already confirmed to July 25 and 26 this year at the Sheraton WTC in São Paulo. Make a note in your calendar because we will have live broadcasts of the event. The Global Agribusiness Forum is held by major Brazilian agribusiness entities like SRB, Sociedade Rural Brasileira, together with ABRAMILHO, MAIZALL, ABCZ, ABRAFRUTAS, Fórum Nacional Sucroenergético, ABPA e DATAGRO. DATAGRO is realizing this. We would like to thank the master partnership of Crop Life Brazil, the partnerships of Bradesco and DAG, DIG, the support of VBSO, Advogados, Yara, and the collaboration of Kerry, Aurora, Cochupé. I hear in my list plan and quality care will support us when this warm up, and also in the 2022 edition of the Global Agribusiness Forum, we would like to do our to say thank you for all these employees. Today, we will take another step toward this goal by talking about new perspective for a modern agribusiness insert in the context of the circular economy with very special guests. Before meeting them, I would like to start by saying that in Brazil, we have a history of protective and unparalleled environmental legislation. I am an environmental lawyer, 20 years, and yes, through which here our private property is met with limitation on its use exclusively for environmental purposes, good environmental purposes. We have approximately 6 million rural proprietors, and they must all respect environmentally relevant areas, such as the surroundings of springs, riverbanks, and hillsides, which are not to be converted into productive areas, but rather must maintain the native vegetation of the protection of the water, soil, and biodiversity. This is unique in the world. All rural areas are obligated to have a percentage of native vegetation destined for protection. That is, vegetation which is not to be converted in production areas. These are called legal reserves here. It's an obligation. In the productive areas, we use sustainable techniques that, thanks to innovation and technology, have proven to be efficient mechanisms for the protection of natural resources. These sustainable techniques are well illustrated by our tropical agriculture, and tropical agriculture methodologic use, such as integrated systems, direct planting, nitrogen fixation in the soil, the use of bio inputs, or other examples that we have a good exploration of our resources. We already have many examples of circular economy in agro, as is the cases of the sugar energy sector. The planting of sugarcane directly on the straw, the use of viruses and input, as well as mechanizing harvesting, serve as the basis of the production of the sugar and ethanol, and the use of biomass for energy cogeneration. Our energy matrix is based on renewables, such as hydroelectric, solar, and wind energy, and biofuels. We certainly have a lot to contribute when it comes to policies to fight global warming. On this matter, I would like to introduce our first guest, Marcelo Leoni Schmidt, partner director Index Group, who is a forest engineer. Welcome, Marcelo. He is my friend. And please tell us, how does the forestry sector contribute to this circular economy in agribusiness?
Okay, Samanta, thank you very much. So first, I would like to thank you to Mr. Plinio Nassari, curator of the Global Agribusiness Forum, and also for you, Samanta, my friend, for the invitation and the opportunity to participate of the warm-up for such important event as Global Agribusiness Forum. All the sector is really excited to this event in July, and those warm-up series are really good to discuss some of the most important topics that would be discussed in July. So before I start, let me tell you a little bit about my sector, the sector I represent, the forestry sector. The forest sector is a kind of orphan in Brazil, in institutional terms, of course. So we were already located close to the environmental sector in the past, as and we plant trees. So people thought in the past, so they plant trees, so they should be close to the environmental minister and this kind of thing. We are already now we are close to the agriculture sector.
Yes, and Marcelo, stay a minute, because this kind of explanation, I would like to that our another guest stay here with us. Please enjoy with us, please, Tommy. Tommy is our second guest. And Tommy Andorff is CEO, the Trust Arcor Group. Please hear with me this important explanation, and thank you for stay with us.
Well, thank you so much. I'm listening eagerly.
Hi, Tommy,
Marcelo,
how are you?
please. Sorry.
No problem, Samantha. So, and this is important. This is the reason why I decided to do this introduction, because the forestry sector is a kind of where I am here. So
yes,
and now we are within the agriculture sector, or together with the agriculture sector, and this makes more sense considering that both sectors are sustainable production chains. However, this history was not always like that, and this is where come the group of companies I own and represent, which was founded in 1971. So we completed 51 years this year.
Oh,
It was not founded by me. I am the second generation. Yeah,
yeah.
I am the second
I don't
generation.
think this.
Thank you very much, Samantha. And when we was found in 1971, and that time nobody was concerned with CO2 emissions. We never realized how important the forest sector was to the climate balance, the global climate balance. So as the global community started to pay attention in environmental and social issues like climate change and others, we realized that the forest sector, in fact, is a sustainable sector with really environmental and social friendly practice. In fact, and this is really important, our activity depend on a well-balanced environmental and social and economic balance to grow. If we don't have environmental balance and we don't have a proper participation of communities and laborers and a fair participation, our sector won't grow. And this is why it's so important to talk about the forestry sector within the agriculture when we talk about circular and bioeconomy. Again, in order to better present, and this is a really brief presentation, I would like to share some slides about the forest sector. Here we go. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Okay, now it's coming.
Okay, perfect. So my idea here is just to give you guys a brief overview what the planted forest sector and our contribution to CO2 emissions, or better than that, for the fighting against global warming and our contribution to the climate balance. So really, Samantha already introduced me, but just about the group of companies I represent, we are 5 companies working with forestry consultant business since 1971. And within this group, we have a little bit of everything. We have one company that is only focused on technology and innovation, is a startup called Map Forest. We have a company that is focused on market, and other companies focus on operations and environmental aspects. So we did a lot of things in the last 50 years. We work for a lot of people, but what I want to tell you today is about our forest sector. So this is exactly why I want to stop a little bit and present to you guys. So I believe that a lot of people that are here today know Brazil and know Brazil from the agriculture and environmental side, but it's not so familiar how the forest plantations are distributed in Brazil. So currently we have 10 million hectares of plantation. We are talking about eucalyptus and pine plantations. Most part are eucalyptus and a little bit of other species. Those plantations are spread in the south and center part of Brazil. Something in northeast, but not so much. And of course, in the north area of Brazil, we know that there's a big thing here called Amazon rainforest. And however, we know how important Amazon forest is for the CO2, the global CO2 balance, but we're not talking about native forest today. I could talk a lot about it, but it's not the case today. We are here to talk about plantations. And this is really important to this discussion. Besides those almost 10 million hectares of plantations, we have, and Samanta already spoke about in her introduction, we have around 8 to 9 million hectares of legal reserve and permanent preservation areas associated to those 10 million hectares of plantations for production. And for production, I'm talking about pulp, I'm talking about timber, I'm talking about those wood-based products that we use every day. However, we have this really important number that besides the 10 million, associated with the 10 million, we have around 8 to 9 million of native forests. Why this is so important? Because both the 10 million hectares and the 8 to 9 million hectares of preservation and legal reserve forests are sustainable and will be there for the long term. We are going to talk a little bit later about why they will be there, and they are there for the long term. But let me just show you how the plantations are increasing and developing over the last year. So fortunately, Brazil is a really important player in the international wood market. Not the first one, but we are growing and growing. And more companies are realizing and understanding the huge potential of our country to grow trees. So over the last year, we increased a lot our planted area, mainly eucalyptus forests, and of course, the main driver of this increase is pulp, the pulpwood market. We know that pulp is a commodity that grows and grows every year, but we estimate that every year the increase in the world pulp consumption is equivalent of a big new factory. So each year we have the demand for a new factory in the world. And as Brazil, we have cycles around 6 to 7 years. So we clear cut the forest with 6 to 7 years. And all the sustainable aspects that are associated to the production, as Samanta already said, the legal reserve areas, the permanent preservation, all the community that is involved and is crucial for planted forest production. So this area is growing. And I can tell you, my friends, that we have a lot of opportunity to grow more and more. Brazil could easily have not 10 million hectares of planted forest, but 20 million hectares of planted forest. And I really think that we are going to reach this number as the world continues to demand more and more wood-based materials. And again, our country is becoming more and more important in this international scene of wood consumption. And this is I don't wanna take too much of your time talking about details and technical details about CO2 sequestration, but another thing, I won't talk about carbon credits here because everybody expects me to talk about carbon credits every time I talk about forest and CO2. I want to call your attention for something much more important than carbon credits. Within those 10 million hectares of planted forests, we have around 2 billion tons of CO2 equivalent in terms of fixation, in terms of fixed CO2. And this is huge. And if we consider all the legal reserve and permanent preservation areas that are associated to the plantation area, we have 2.6 billion tons of CO2. So we are talking about a permanent and sustainable stock of 4.5, almost 4.5, 4.4 billion tons of CO2 associated to the forestry sector in Brazil. Why this is more important than carbon credits? Because I work with carbon credits for more than 20 years. And 20 years ago, when CDM projects are exploding and we started to talk a lot about this aspect, everybody was looking for carbon credits to produce money, not fix carbon. And the main driver of the market in that time was really and this is really good. I'm not saying that this is not good, but the possibility to exchange and to trade carbon credits. And of course, use a financial mechanism to promote environmental quality. However, since 2019, around 18 to 19, the carbon market is back. And however, the driver now is not more the trade of credits, but companies are really looking for promote environmental practice, and the ESG, the environmental, social, and governance practice, are really pushing the companies to look for reducing their carbon emissions. And this is pretty much important for the forest sector, because if we consider all those rules, all the rules related to CDM and VCS and other carbon projects, we will realize that the planted forests are not eligible for generate carbon credits, because we don't fulfill all the needed requirements, especially the additionality requirement, which is really difficult to prove additionality in any planted forest, any production forest. However, and this is a point of frustration of the forest sector, we are outside of the carbon market. However, we have almost 5 billion tons of CO2 sustainably and permanently fixed and stored in our forests. And why I say that they are there for the long term, because all the companies of this sector, we plant, and when we clear cut the forest, we replant, because we are there. The companies are there for the long term. So even the pulp companies, they are always planting and replanting and keeping an amount of carbon there in the forest, and this amount of carbon will be there for decades or more than this, because companies are there for the long term. I am not considering the carbon that is fixed on the wood here, because when we harvest, when we clear cut the forest, we know that a good amount of this CO2 that was fixed on the tree, the standard tree, the stumpage, is here, because we are not burning, we are not destroying this wood. So we are not considering this benefit, but this is a real benefit. We're just talking about standing trees. And what the sector is doing right now is trying to negotiate and to promote this internal fixation, this internal stock of CO2, and bring this stock to the cash flow of the companies, of the project, the forest project, to prove internally for the board, for the investors, that this carbon stock should be and could be valuated as an asset like the wood. So when we traditionally build cash flow from any wood project, we only have as revenue the wood, the sales of wood, but we are changing this concept to see besides the wood revenue, also the carbon revenue. And I have a really good and interesting example of a customer, and we built a new logical for this customer, because this customer is an international company with mills in different countries, but only in Brazil they have forests. So internally they are showing to the investors and the board that this benefit of offsetting all the mills of the company in the Brazilian forest should be evaluated and should be considered within the cash flow of the company. And it's really easy to prove, because if the company goes to the market to buy carbon credits to offset their emissions, they will pay, I don't know, $5 to $6 per ton of CO2. But they don't need, they have the forests here in Brazil keeping this stock that will balance the emissions and offset all the company globally. And that's the way they are considering it. This is not carbon credits, because we are not taking credit to the market. This is something internal, and this is something that will grow a lot in the next years. Also, we have a lot of discussions in Brazilian discussions about a local carbon market, and this local carbon market, considering the example of other countries, will have its own rules. The additionality criteria is something that we are discussing if we are going to keep or not. And also something that is happening a lot in Brazil, and now I'm talking about carbon credits. We are seeing a big wave of investments of different companies that are looking for degraded lands to plant native forests and generate carbon credits. And I'm not talking about 100, 200 hectares. I'm talking about 10,000 hectares, 20,000 hectares per year that one specific company is thinking to plant to produce carbon credits that will be negotiated with companies that are interested to buy this credit to offset their emissions. So this private side of the carbon market will push a lot what is happening in Brazil, what will happen in Brazil in the next years. We don't count so much with what could come from the formal and the official market. I'm talking about the UNFCCC and the international scheme, but now the private and the voluntary market is growing a lot. And with this aspect that I already mentioned and explained about evaluating the carbon that is already stocked and fixed by the Brazilian forest, this for certain will be something really important in the future. In the end of the day, my friends, what I want to show you right now to you today is that Brazil and Brazilian forest, we have a big contribution to the climate balance. Unfortunately, that contribution was not well evaluated in the past, as all the world was looking for carbon credits, and the world didn't find carbon credits in our forests. But besides all the other environmental and social benefits, we also have a really strong impact on the world, on the global carbon balance, and this should be and could be evaluated somehow in the next years. So this is what I wanted to tell you guys. I look forward to heard some questions and to discuss with Samanta and Tommy about Brazilian CO2 emissions related to forest.
Thank you, Marcelo. It's amazing examples, and you know the team, you know the forest, you know the law, so it's a different guys. So thank you. I would like to call attention to legal reserve for our for guys, all of them, that it's a significant mandatory percentage that goes from 20 to 80% of the area that should be left for the conservation. It's an important obligation here in Brazil, that it's different, it's so different. And another observation that is forest are a great example of a circular economy in agribusiness, because nothing is lost. In forestry, nothing is lost. And there is a carbon sequestration, okay, but this is not the most important. The stock is huge, is really huge. One observation here, it's the ESG. It's an irreversible concept. We are in the world that ESG are the most important for investors, for customers, and this has to be considered. And it is the forest sector is not being look at fairly in the fight against the climate change, because the important sector it's not important for count. I don't understand this, Marcelo. And finally, other sectors have potential, but to be discovered. And technology can help. And about technology, we have here Tommy. Tommy Andorff. I'm right? Andorff?
You're very much correct. Thank you.
Okay, CEO of Trust Anchor Group. Tommy, if you could be kind enough to tell us what are some examples of technology developed today that are made to ensure that the production has a positive environmental impact, especially to buyers outside the producing country? Please.
Excellent. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you also, Samantha, for inviting me. I'm very honored to speak about how circular economy and new technology in agriculture can reduce the CO2 emissions. I thought I would share my screen and let you see if this works. There we go. Oh, I think you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. So first of all, very brief introduction about Trust Anchor Group, and to give some context of where I'm coming from. We are a technology partner for the next generation of internet, or you might have heard of Web3. We help our clients to manage both physical and digital assets by introducing a range of technical tools that can be used as a catalyst for making the world a smarter and more sustainable place. So our clients are typically ranging from innovative startups and corporations to organizations and cities and governments and large tech companies that wants to sort of augment their own technology to work for a better life for people on this planet. We're a young company. We were founded in 2018 with a innovative technology that has in its DNA services for Internet of Things, for peer-to-peer payments and decentralized identities and a distributed ledger technology. A lot of buzzwords here that you might have heard or not heard recently. I'll talk a little bit more about how we can, from a practical viewpoint, show examples where this technology can achieve a more circular economy and how we can reduce CO2 emissions. Looking at the past 100 years, just taking a step back, we're optimizing a lot for economic and financial growth with, from any perspective, a linear view of how we can use our resources. And this has, of course, not always been the case. We used to cherish our resources and we used to know that they were scarce. But looking back now, we somehow got the idea that our resources are infinite and that we could maximize our profit and growth with an everlasting yield without caring about the consequences, it feels. So today, just to highlight that and give it that we are on track to have a 3.2% global warming, virtually the same as a person having 2 degrees fever, is quite a lot. 2 to 3 degrees increase is massive, as we all know. We understand now that the resources are finite and that the way we're spending our lives will hurt our planet, our children, and generations to come. So I think we have to ask ourselves, why does economy exist? And if not for the purpose of us, the people who are living on the planet, and clearly we need to optimize for a more sustainable planet, for financial security and human safety and well-being instead of just financial growth. And the rising waste levels is also following in a rapid acceleration. Over 90% of the material extracted is and used is wasted today. I recently read the Circularity Gap report for this year, which shows that about 1/3 of the food produced per year is wasted. This is a massive 1.3 billion tons each year. And in 2050, these 100 billion tons of waste will have almost doubled to 175 billion tons. So looking at the level of circularity is quite discouraging in this context. Only 8.6% make it back to our economy, and it's actually getting worse. So in the last 2 years, global circularity went down from 9.1% in 2018 and to now last measured in 2020 to 8.6%. So whatever we're doing now is not working well enough. So the current commitment the world has agreed upon will take us to about 15% of the goal, reaching 2 degrees global warming. And from a lot of people's perspective, the other 85% is dependent on the global use of circular economy. So what can we do in this context? Circularity gives us a lot of interesting tools and to transform our linear economy into one where waste and pollution are practically eliminated. Products and materials are reused and nature is regenerated. And in this context, if we integrate the circular strategies into our economies, based on the 4 flows that are shown here, we will need a lot less materials and less emissions to live. By using smarter materials, here also we can produce and share products, services, as well as sharing energy and sharing economy will come a long way. And technology can support this in many, many ways. So by also looking at the design of products and for multi-use and co-use from the beginning, we can see a clear change of being able to use everything we produce much, much longer and in more context, multi-use. And all of this is about making change from single use to linear, and linear use to multi-use. And circular economy is really here to make the most of that difference. But I feel also that we have a tendency to just look at how we divert waste, because it's essentially what we see and feel quite a lot, instead of looking at how this waste is created and how we use to produce goods and manage our stocks. So using technology, we can work as a catalyst for this change and make concrete improvements. So I said I was going to take a practical viewpoint and talk about how technology can be used. And here are some examples of our clients and partners using technology to manage both physical and digital assets in a circular way to decrease the carbon footprint. So by introducing solutions for identities, for Internet of Things or IoT, and tokenization of assets, both physical and digital, we can make a whole range of interesting service. And one challenge in today's society is how to monetize the existing and current infrastructure in an efficient way. With secure identities and now distributed ledger systems and smart payments, this is now very much possible to achieve. So we see use cases like tokenization of land that was spoken about, real estate and carbon offsetting as being one of the strongest trends. Obviously, it's been talked about for a long time, and there's quite a lot of things happening there now. But we also see democratization of investments into farming projects and agriculture, creating awareness and a closer sense of participation in the products and the supply chain. A fun example is a company called LogTrade. LogTrade is a company that launched a pilot to deliver self-aware packages they call trade units. The way this works is they can pay their way forward from sender to recipient with the goal destination based on the rules you set up for each package. So the buyer can choose to say that the package should be delivered fast, secure, environmental friendly, and the package can then accept distributors that meet these criteria for requirements and pay its own way forward. We introduce identities that are linked to these trade units, add a wallet with smart contracts, and you can programmatically decide how distribution is done for both early stage in the supply chain and last mile. So once the packages are powered with a strong identity and decentralized ledger, the smart contracts, the trade units or packages, they can become almost self-aware and order shipping orders themselves based on the criteria that are set up to be environmental friendly. So this allows any distributor that meets the criteria to sort of take package from one point to another, and they can realize an efficient and decentralized logistics for both first and last mile. Another example, providing tokenization of CO2 extraction from the environment. As Marcelo said, there's a lot of examples around the world for carbon credits and tokenization of land, forest, and assets. It gives out benefits for preserving land from deforestation, which is fantastic. And this is something we support in many ways in projects. But there's also a lot of innovation happening in this space. Krahn is a client of ours who's working to set up a little bit of a new way of CO2 offsetting by taking existing biomass and creating instant CO2 offsetting in a way that can be measured very efficiently and instantly. So this means that companies can compensate CO2 emission in the same day that they consume it, and it can be measured the same day. So instant offset and compensation of CO2 in combination with other sort of tokenizations and carbon credit solutions is a very hot topic for, obviously, given the UN sustainable goals that was mentioned and the situation the world is in. But the goal for this solution is to make it possible to take out more CO2 than we introduce in the world and sort of bring that back to sustainable storage. Another very interesting case is providing tokenization for the fish industry in Chile. I mentioned this a little bit before. It's creating an investable token. Like Marcelo said, it's a lot has to do the financial incentives for this. What I think is interesting about this use case is that it's actually inviting more people from the community. Typical salmon project costs about $23,000 million US dollars per project over 3 years. And then when we create 10,000 tokens issued at a value then for $2,300 per token, the local people can actually invest a lot more, and they can create communities that can invest and participate. And this is creating a lot more emphasis on sustainable production and connection with the society that the companies operate in. I know I'm pushing a lot of use cases fast now, but I want to mention maybe this case as well for just tokenizing the asset of weight is something that's quite interesting in this context. So think about an airplane or when you travel yourself, could be a container. The storage that is available in this to be reused and to be more optimized is making it possible to tokenize the asset of weight. So travelers and distributors can buy and sell trade weight as easy as other services or goods. So this enables airline companies and the travel industry to optimize a lot of flows and to reuse space and to optimize fuel and logistics space. In practice, this becomes a marketplace for the asset of weight that people can buy and sell and optimize. My final example will be another fun one. We have a project that introduced a wallet into any vehicle, linking it to the identity of the vehicle, but also to all the sensors of the vehicle. So you can start to monetize your own transport and reuse the data and insights that the vehicle already collects to stay on the road. Today, cities and companies are spending massive amounts of money on building smart cities and sensor capabilities. And this can also be done much more efficient on moving vehicles and have a lot of sensors already. So imagine driving a truck or for a pickup or delivery transportation and being able to sell off the data and insights that the vehicle collects. There's a list of examples from a tender that was sent out for smart city sensors. And this is information that you can sell off from the distribution chain as well. So this is a project we're working on together with a group of students from the KTH, the Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden. And we're very excited to see where this leads. So the point I want to make with these examples is that there are a lot of innovation happening in the space of sustainability and circularity. We can all do more to make a change. And most cities, for example, have cars that are idle for 95% of the time. Thinking about reuse and co-use and sharing of resources is key to our own survival, I would argue. So for me, it comes down to what's the purpose of the economic systems that we have in place, and naturally is to make us safer and healthier and enable us to live a more fulfilled life. But then how do we meet these needs? Can we offer a more efficient way than today? And can we work in a smarter way? And the answer is obviously yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you for you, Tommy. Yes, we can. I think that we can do a lot.
Yes.
We can do a lot, and you have shown us how we can, and you show us how. And thank you for this. salmon in Chile is a sustainable product that helps communities. That we think about society too, and with this trust, we can more. Yeah,
For sure.
And I understand that tokenization can be popular and trust and more common this kind of practices. So more and more we keep seeing great examples of technological innovations working for us and being sustainable for what we need. Thank you for your presentation. And now I would like our viewers to participate for foreign questions to our panelists. And you can forward your questions or comment through the chat. But I would like each of our guests, while our viewers send us some questions, what opportunities? This is about a problem. Okay, we have a situation in our environmental, in climate change and growing population, but we have opportunities here. So, what opportunities in agribusiness offer in terms of circular economy? Maybe 2 or 3 minutes for each. Please, Marcelo.
I would ask to make the first question for Tommy, but I will try to do both in one single thing.
Okay, no problem. It's a good conversation.
Yeah. So Tommy, we have a lot to talk later.
For sure.
I really liked your presentation, and I have an example that answers Samanta's question. And it's a perfect example that links my presentation to your presentation. So we are working with a company. It's a big company, a forest-based company in Brazil. They have hundreds of thousands of hectares of plantations. And the director told me 4 weeks ago, my yearly budget is 2 billion. 2 billion, the forest department inside the company, 2 billion reais. And we have a huge movement of trucks going for the forest and back empty, and with people, food, equipment, wood, everything that you think about it. And he said, I am sure, and I cannot sleep at night because I'm sure that from those 2 billion reais, 10 to 20%, so we're talking about 200 million to 400 million leaks we lose because we are not thinking this logistic properly, smartly well. So I think this is a case where technology could help us, and it's inside the forestry sector. So what do you think, Tommy?
For sure.
I'm right.
Absolutely. And that's, if I would bring out one thing that I think would make the most impact from a circularity standpoint as well, it's related to the stocks, the stocks in general, of stockpiling and optimizing stock and the distribution chain there. So this links very well into that example, Marcelo, and just thinking about the fact that 2/3 of food waste and all these 90% is just linear use. It's mind-blowing to me that we've been able to go at it this long before realizing that we need to change. So reusing, repurposing, and taking exactly that example to make sure that you can co-use trucks and use information from trucks, as in the example I showed, but also to monetize that. It's a benefit, Samanta, to your point. The opportunities are actually I'm a big believer in financial and sustainable growth hand in hand. It should be the best option for us to do that, but we don't really have to maximize the financial profit in order to gain a sustainable growth for our society and for ourselves.
Yeah, maybe it's in terms of cost benefit. It's a balance. We must keep the sustainable growing and have some financial benefits.
Absolutely.
Because currently we didn't have any.
No.
So, yeah.
No.
Better than nothing.
For sure.
It's a good example. Marcelo, please, in our point of view, this actual situation, can be a new opportunity for here. Brazilian agribusiness is particular case, but there is opportunity. Oh, we have just problems here.
No, it's not. We have a lot of things to work and to solve, and I can tell you that the market and our sector is really dynamic. When we solve those things, new issues will come, and we will need to work harder on technology and innovation and things like tokenization and other things, because the world changed faster and faster, and we need to keep track of these changes. But I can tell you, Samanta, and I'm not afraid of telling anything wrong. We have a lot of opportunities to grow in the agriculture and the forest business here in Brazil, and the technology is a crucial point to make it happen.
Yes.
I can use my group of companies as an example. We completed a couple years ago 40 years, and we realized that if we don't consider it really strongly the technology inside our business, we wouldn't last another 40 years. So last year we completed 50 years. So we are working hard to bring technology, to bring this digital world of tokenization and of smart contracts to our business. Because if we don't, we're not going to last 50 years and complete a century of history. So I think this works for every company in the agriculture business. We need to look for technology, because technology and sustainability are both two things of the same basket.
Yes, I agree with you totally. I would like to ask a mix of questions here for you, Tommy, about opportunities. And we have one question, Flavia Assis. Hello, I'm from Cotia. There is one little city here. And this is an open question. Do you guys think that technology can prejudice the circular economy in any way, or only something that is positive? It's a good question. Please, Tommy, you first.
Yeah, very good question. I mean, obviously, they're thinking about next generation of internet technology that I mentioned that we work with. You might argue, what's wrong with the current technology of internet or Web 2? But there's a lot of non-sustainable technologies out there in the market that are sort of working seemingly in an innovative way, but that are both sort of non-compliant. We live in a highly regulated world in the agribusiness world, and also not sustainable by design. So I would really emphasize that sort of do your homework in that sense. Take a look at what the underlying technology is and how it works, and make sure that you don't over-engineer and look at things that are not suited for circular economy and sustainability. So a very good question, and highly relevant in what's happening out there.
there is nothing 100% good or bad. We have to know how to use it. That's the secret. I
For sure.
think.
Yeah.
We have another question. Elisa Schaumann. Elisa, querida, super beijo para você. Marcelo, from your experience, how does the agribusiness players respond to new technologies within the Brazilian market?
So, Elisa, this is also a good question because we definitely don't have everybody in the same table. Yeah,
Yes.
we still have a lot of we still see a lot of companies that are struggling and are struggling to believe that they don't have any other option. They need to consider technology and innovation in their production systems. However, this is a process. If you go back in time and a couple years ago, we will see a lot of things that we use a lot, and that time, drones, for instance. I heard a lot of companies say, we have satellite image, I don't need drones. So everybody uses drones, and it's something that we cannot live without. So and just one last observation about the previous question that Tommy answered about innovation. I have a really nice. I heard a really nice comparison about innovation, because innovation is something that is new, but is useful. If I come here naked today, it's an innovation. No,
yes, it's not technological innovation,
it's useless.
but it's innovation.
and this is something that we need to remember. We are talking about solving agriculture sector issues with innovation, with technology, and that's why I absolutely agree with Tommy. There are some ideas that are not sustainable.
Yes, definitely. Rafael Augusto. I would love to learn more. Me too, Rafael. Does Tommy has any courses about these topics, specifically on how to apply them in real market, or can point one for the European market? I love to learn more too, because we have Hutch. So please tell me where we can learn more about this.
So it's thinking back to when internet technology came in and we started to go online. That's a seismic shift and a new paradigm to how we consume information and how we interact with each other. And there's actually a similar seismic change going on right now to a more decentralized and owner-led internet, with new technology really pushing hard to change the dominance of big tech companies, of privacy issues, and about sort of storing value with very few big companies or governments. So this is part of the movement for the next generation of internet. There's a lot of resources to learn about online. We have a little bit of a different take than if you look in the regular media and news outlets. Most of this technology, like it is in an early stage, is used for entertainment and media and art and things like that. We come from a regulated aspect of looking at things from a regulatory sort of sustained environment, where a strong identity is a key to interacting and exchanging value, to have payments in a secure way. Things that we've learned along the ways that in a more destructive way you would typically not bring into a context like agriculture, as an example, or smart cities or societies. So we try to bring the good things about what's working, so consumer protection and legal beneficial owners and things like that, into a decentralized world where you can make autonomous decisions, like the automobiles that I spoke about, or packages and things like that. To marry that together is, I think, what I think is the next wave of technology. And I would just, as a starting point, invite anyone to start searching for information in your regular channels, but definitely also reach out to us. We're happy to engage on one-on-one calls or directly to resources we have. So please, I'm on LinkedIn. Tommy Andorff is, I think, the only one. So
just one Tommy Andorff.
I would say so. Yes, there's not a lot of Andorffs in the world, but so please reach out. We have representation in Europe and Africa, and obviously in Brazil and South America and several countries as well. So just reach out, and we're happy to talk more about specific use cases and practices.
Okay. Thank you for your disponibility. It's need for a specific regulation here in Brazil for this technology be used in new kinds of agriculture, for example. And we are just a little bit slow about the regulation. So I will try to make something about it.
You're in good company, I would say that.
Oh, yes, I think that I'm sorry for this. There is other question, Claudia Molina. ESG is becoming the norm in the corporate world, but sometimes company just use for it the media. Yes, it's the famous greenwashing. And how can consumers know if that company is truly committed? This is a good question. Another good question.
So should I shoot?
Please, Marcelo. Marcelo is a lawyer too. Marcelo is a forest engineer and lawyer.
So Claudia, we can know, and only the long term will separate the truly committed companies from the greenwashing, like Samanta said. We still don't have a standard that could be used for the companies to prove that they are ESG that they follow ESG principles. And I don't think this is the case. The ESG is not a certification like ISO or FSC or something like this. I think that we shouldn't have. Each company should develop its own vision and its own understanding of ESG principles and how the ESG principles impact their operations. And they would have to internalize those principles in their product, in the process, in their relationship with the community, with stakeholders, with the media. And this is something that takes time. And I understand some friends that are saying, I don't believe in ESG because it's same thing that we are hearing a lot of years. No, I truly believe because now the financial decision makers are involved. And in the past, we never included the CFO of the companies and the CEO of the companies, the C-level in sustainability discussions. It's only a matter of take a look of the last COP. All big company CEOs were there, because they realize that they need to think about and to internalize ESG principles in their operations. However, you're right, Claudia, it's still difficult to separate these two kind of companies, and only the time will give us the right perception of who is who.
Yes, and if I can contribute, we are working in Brazil to develop Brazilian indicators that will certainly help identify greenwashing. And that the tokenization that Tommy talked about ends with this problem, because it's impossible if you use token for this service you can identify all toda a cadeia. Help me, Marcelo. You
Sorry,
can identify toda a cadeia.
All the chain. You can
chain, yes.
All the chain.
Yes. So this is the door, the tokenization and the innovation, technology, and other arms for this. You identify. This is our problem, Tommy. Trust. Please help us.
No, absolutely. I was saying, thinking about what I had to add to Marcelo, very good conclusion of what I think the problem is, that the question is whether you should measure it or not. But in this sense, I would invite anyone who has ideas about this to innovate around it and use the technical tools. As a technician, that would be a good catalyst to knowing more about how companies adhere to the ESG goals, as a good way to move forward.
Okay, I would like, before the next question, I would like to thank for our helpers, SRB, Sociedade Rural Brasileira, a ABRAMILHO, Associação Brasileira dos Produtores de Milho, a MAIZALL, International Maize Alliance, a ABCZ, Associação Brasileira dos Criadores de Zebu, a ABRAFRUTAS, Associação Brasileira dos Produtores e Exportadores de Frutas e Derivados, o Fórum Nacional Sucroenergético, a UNEM, União Nacional do Etanol de Milho, a Associação Brasileira de Proteína Animal, a ABPA, e a DATAGRO, que sempre always realize this encounter. I would like change for another. Thank to a Crop Life, Bradesco, DEAG, ao apoio da VBSO Advogados, Iara, Carry, Aurora Cop, Cochupé, Lisplan, and Quantic Celtic. Okay. We have another question here. Oh. Marcelo, please, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I do have a question for Tommy, and this is something that I'm really curious about it. Tommy, how's the implementation of tokenization in different countries currently? How different countries are considering this nowadays?
So I think there's two main trends that you can highlight. The one is the sort of grassroots movement of making sure, like in the Chilean project I highlighted, there's a grass movement of getting more engaged. We see that a lot in various projects in Latin America and in Africa, to get the community engaged in rice, soybean production. As I said, co-owning, sharing ownership of tokenized real estate, and even apartments and things like that. We honestly have a lot of these cases every day, every week. There's bubbling around the world. So this is happening. At the same time, the legislation is not very clear on many jurisdictions today. There has been some progress in the UK, as an example, or in Singapore and some other countries. But I would say still early stage. In a lot of markets, tokenization and NFTs are not regulated today. So again, it depends. It's early stage for some players to come into a regulated space. And I would say what you see in a lot of the public blockchains that are out there that have a so-called permissionless structure is that you it's difficult to use them in this context. We're in a regulated environment, so the risk is definitely higher there. But there are options. We're not the only ones who are looking at this from a regulated perspective, but looking at it from a perspective of where the regulation is getting clearer and clearer, I think is definitely in some of the markets in Asia and Baltics, also UK, as mentioned, is the front runner. So I think then if you link this to other things that are happening in the same space for digital currencies and things like that, there are other markets that are also moving fast and taking a sort of a beachhead into that regulation. But you don't have to go as far as crypto and digital currencies to do really good things for sustainability and projects here. I'm also a big believer in just linking what we have today, as we said, existing infrastructure, existing processes to sort of augment with new technology. And then I would say I can't really see a trend globally where it's not happening, honestly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Here, there is another for Tommy. How is the auditability of your company's technology?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that goes with working in a regulated environment. So we're very clear on auditability of both our technology and what it enables in terms of products and services. And this is one thing that is quite difficult, to not say impossible, for some other technologies in the space.
Impossible never.
Yeah, absolutely. So for sure, that's one of the things why we use a clear identity at the protocol level, either as an individual or as a beneficial owner, a company or an entity of any type, and make sure that that is auditable and that you can comply with privacy regulations like GDPR or equivalent, with other regulations in the financial reporting industry and agriculture.
Yes, okay, thank you. Now, Marcelo, Cláudia Molina. Marcelo, how would you qualify the interaction between forestry companies and reserves with farms and land set for agriculture? It's a question for it's a general question, and many times they are physically close to one another. Do they work well together?
Claudia, there's so much going on here in your question, but I'll try to make some comments. First, we are seeing a really strong conversion trend from planted forest to agriculture. Why? Because you said that many times they are physically close, and this is not normal. Normally, we have agricultural lands here and timberland there, far away from the roads, far away from the flat areas, and the worst soils, of course, and remains with forest, and the best ones with agriculture. That's why we are seeing this conversion, because in the past people planted forest where they should plant annual cultures like crops and others, and this is one mistake. The first part of your question is maybe it could be something that we should talk about the sectors and the institutions. And historically, I'm talking about only the forest sector, not the agriculture. Historically, we don't communicate well. And this is something that we are far away from the agriculture sector. And it's like that emoji, that the guy with the hand like this. Yes, we don't communicate well, and we are improving a lot and coming closer to the agriculture sector. So now we are seeing some conferences that both the forest and the agriculture sector are together. And why this is so important? Because a lot of the issues are the same. Like, for instance, the price and the cost of a lot of things that are important for agriculture and are important for forestry. For example, fertilizers, and the price are growing.
Yes.
And we also have a lot of competition and between for lands between the two sectors, and that's why we should sit in the same table and discuss. But in the end of the day, I think that we have a lot of space to grow both sectors in Brazil. We are under a crisis in the forest sector because the demand is so high and the supply is the same. And we are discussing, all the forest sector over the last years, discussing how we are going to expand. And sometimes I see people saying, we don't have any space, any place to expand. What? We are not in Japan. We are a huge country like Brazil, so we just need to sit with other sectors like agriculture and see how we're going to do it in a sustainable, and how we are going to avoid to the land prices to increase and make everybody happy. So, but Claudia, be free to contact me any other time privately, because there's so much things to talk here that we should.
Marcelo, we are seeing the growth in the use of integrated systems now. Yes, forest with agriculture, with other activities. This is a new and sustainable way of production here in Brazil. Is so fast growing. What is your opinion about it?
I think this is a solution that should be promoted, especially for small landowners. Because
okay.
when you are a small landowners, you need to diversify. Of course, we're not going to make the big pulp companies change their system and cattle race among the trees. We are not going to see this. But for small and maybe medium landowners, I think that this could be a really clever situation, because we know that after the trees are a little bit big, the cattle cannot harm the tree, and the trees can create shadow for the cattle. So it's a good combination. But of course, where is the best place to plant trees? It's close to the mill. So it's not a good business to plant trees anywhere. No, you need to be close to a market that will demand and consume those trees.
Okay. Well, I remember this talk is just a warm-up for our event that will take place in July. So, Tommy, please, our final considerations for us. I'm very happy for hear you, because you are innovation. We need in Brazil, we need trust, we need something new and fast, and I will work hard for regulation here for your system.
Fantastic. No, I think, thank you for a very, very insightful and great discussion. And thank you for the questions as well. There's always angles that we can think about together that sort of increase our common knowledge about how to be innovative and how to use technology. I think for me, it's really about just taking a few steps, small steps in the right direction is always the best way. Don't think about innovation and new technologies as these major projects. Although it can be difficult in the environment that we're in, try to find an area where you can test things, and you will see that it's not too cumbersome to actually create value and to do something innovative.
Okay, thank you so much. Marcelo, please, your final considerations, and thank you for your stay here with me and help me with my English.
Your English is good, and thank you for such a fantastic morning. It was a really good discussion, and in the end of the day, it was a really good match of presentations, forestry and technology. It's a great match. And I just remember from when I started work with carbon, I went to a conference in Rio de Janeiro, and it was I don't know, beginning 20 years ago. And one speaker from a carbon consultant company said to the audience that when we look when we look at forest, we don't see trees, we see carbon. And this is something that I really would like to use as a bad example of sustainability and circular economy. In our forest sector, we must see the forest, and we see the forest, and we see a lot of things. We see biodiversity, we see, of course, carbon, wood, community, and this is exactly why we are here discussing forestry and circular economy. I think that both forestry and agriculture sector has a lot of contribute to economy, to circular economy, and we give our hands to Tommy and the technology so we can go beyond. So thank you very much, guys, and I look forward to see you in July.
Okay, thank you, Marcelo, and thank you for you that stay with us here, our sponsors and supporters, and thank you at DATAGRO, and you all invited for July in our event. Will be a great event. So thank you and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Tecnologia conecta pessoas e transforma vidas. CropLife Brasil.